What's going on, fam? Hope you're doing well out there. So coming in at you with another quick overview. So we have got one of Vosteed's awesome offerings. This is one of my favorite knives that they do. It's actually the knife that kind of made me fall in love with Vosteed originally. So this is the first knife that I bought that was a Vosteed. This is the OG Thunderbird. So you can see there it's got their old logo on it. This was the original S35VN version. It was originally OD green, and I dyed it, or had the OD green and black. I dyed it with that kind of the blurple, the dark blue there. But this one here, this is one of their latest offerings. It is not the newest, but it is one of their latest offerings. So we're just going to go ahead and crack into this thing. So the new premium packaging from Vosteed is absolutely stellar. If you guys haven't checked it out, you get the really nice box there. No, not really a box, but really nice case. And then, of course, typical with Vosteed, you have their safety and guidelines, just kind of their typical pamphlet you get with a knife purchase. Has some of their warranty information on it, as well as some contact information. Really well done there. And then you get the box. You do have a little pressure relief valve there. So if you, not that you could, well, you couldn't use it for carry-on, but it does have a lock. So I guess you could use it for flying. So I'm assuming it would be TSA approved. I mean, there's no pry points, so it's a possibility. It's something you definitely have to check, but it does have a locking point. But anyway, we'll get into this. So we'll crack this thing open here. So inside we have, typical with your Vosteed Thunderbird purchases, you do get a Thunderbird patch, which is awesome. I've got one of these as well. Then you do get the Thunderbird sticker, which is probably one of their coolest stickers. That gorgeous Thunderbird. And typical with Vosteed, they're same microfiber. But we'll go into the blade here. Go ahead and get that out. Get all this stuff put back up real quick. Get this guy out of the way. So yeah, so as you can see, this is the, I wouldn't really call it frag. It's not quite small enough to be frag, I don't think. But you've got some textured titanium, and this is a coated titanium. As you can see here, some of the differences already. So from the first generation to the next generation, you have the little bit smaller size, not anything crazy, but you can see there just a slightly smaller size, and the OG has the wire pocket clip. A little bit of a, let's see, yeah, a little bit of a different button placement. So that was one thing that the original did have a slight issue with, was some engagement on the button lock. So they did change that. As you can see there, they did move that button slightly inward. And I know that they redesigned the Trek lock completely, or almost completely, to get into that secondary, to get a little better locking. Let's see here. So we've got a little bit of changes in the jimping. Nothing crazy. It could just be from wear, because I have used the fire out of this knife. Again, your new one is slightly smaller. And it looks like you got a little bit different shape there on that rear flipper. It's not enough to really notice on camera, and I could just be seeing illusions here, but it looks like the rear flipper on the new one is a little more defined. But jimping looks the same on the front. Blade hole's the same. The fuller's the same. And you've got the same design for your back spacers. So some definite changes from the Generation 1 to the Titanium one. Again, just the biggest being the size difference. So let's see if we can put them side by side. Try to figure out a good way to do that. Let's see. That's probably the easiest way there. So there you go. Try to make that where you can see it. There's a kind of a little bit of a better visual for you, I guess. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the typical here. We'll zoom on in and take a look at the knife. So again, you have Some pretty decent jimping everywhere you need it. At the very top of your flipper, around to the side a little bit. Then you have a huge row of jimping that runs all the way around on your front flipper. There's your blade hole and the fuller. Great texturing on your button. The titanium is fairly smooth, but the milling does give you some traction. It's not sharp at all in any way, shape, or form. Typical with Vosteed, you do have some really great finish work here. So your screws are almost perfectly flat. Looks like you got one kind of sticking up there just a hair. And I can barely feel that thing. So that's probably something that I would be able to take care of just to see it might be even a little bit loose maybe. I'm not sure, but we'll check that out. You can see that there. It's just a hair up. Again, there is your backspacer. I do believe it is a titanium backspacer in this. One thing I do love about this design is there's no lanyard hole. So you do have a lanyard post here on the back. It is a quarter length backspacer, so you have a wide open construction on the back, and then you do have your steel liners here that house the locking mechanism. And there is your pivot coming into your new design pocket clip, and Vosteed's pocket clips are always really good. They don't move side to side a whole lot, so you can see that there. They have really good tension, and of course they are flush mounted with flush screws, and you can see there it is pretty much dead flush. And I also love that their main screws are sunk in. You don't feel them, you don't see them. And they always do a really good job on their on the machining for the screws as well. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. We'll grab my T8 here, and we will see how we do. So there we are in there, and you can see there is zero movement. Let's see, it looks like they did upgrade to T8s on the body. So you see we got just a hair of movement. If you look at that screw head there, just a hair well within spec. Those are all T6s. Yeah, so check the other body screw here. Again, almost the exact same amount of movement on that. Let's go ahead and check our clip screws. Perfect there. Just a hair movement there, and this is that one that's barely sticking up, so I'm just going to see if it's something where just unscrewing it and screwing it back in will fix that. Not quite, but it did get a little bit better there. So probably something that's, again, it's not anything that I am concerned with. Just full transparency. Oh, grab the wrong screwdriver. So again, our pocket clip screws, really good machining again on those. Perfect there. All right, so definitely well within acceptable specs for me anyway. So let's go ahead and, again, you guys see me cut the tape on this thing. I have not opened this knife at all. So let's do this off camera a little bit. Yeah, it feels very familiar, very nice. So we'll go into the blade. So you have it is a Japanese style tanto. Really, really nice swedging there on the top into your fuller. And we are, let's see, is that a flat? Let's see, I think we are dealing with flat grind on both. Let's see, it's kind of hard to tell because it is a fairly shallow grind. Let me see, I'm going to take this thing off camera real quick and take a look at it. Okay, so again, it is a fairly shallow hollow grind, but it does, when holding a flat edge up against it, it does let light underneath. So it is not a flat grind, and then of course your tip is a flat grind. That's fairly traditional. So again, it is a shallow hollow grind. It's about a half height, I'd say there. We'll go ahead and take a look at our sharpening choil, finger choil. So it looks like everything ends about right there. So there you've got all of that room there for sharpening, which is awesome. Plenty of room for activities there, and we'll take a look at our grind as per usual. Pretty even grinds, looks good there. Our transition into the compound grind looks really good. Tip grind looks really good. Vosteed always does an absolutely killer job on their grinds and their sharpening. So it looks like we might have just a hair of a shallower grind right here. We just got just a hair less grind there. And that looks pretty good. There might just be a little shallow here as well. But the tip looks pretty spot on. Let's take a look at the tip under magnification. Oh yeah, that is as near as I can tell to being perfect. Check it side to side, make sure it looks good. Yeah, I'd say that's a perfect tip grind. So grinds are really even on this. Like I said, there's only one little spot here, just towards the heel, and one little spot right here in the transition where there might be a slightly shallower, or excuse me, a slightly steeper grind on those two sides. But matches up really well. Like I said, Vosteed always does a killer job with their sharpening. Speaking of which, we'll go ahead and jump right on into that. Just grab one of these little newspaper thin pieces of paper here. Let's see how we're doing. Oh yeah, we can just no issues there. Check the tip. The tip's always going to be a little bit different. Tip is still push cutting it. There we go. Yep, we went into the main part of the blade. I'm trying to stay in the tip here. So tip is a little of a steeper grind, so that's going to be expected. But the main blade is super sharp. Let's see, we'll start where we started here. Yeah, that's doing fantastic. So again, guys, as with every video, I talk about it because it is something that needs to be talked about. This paper that I'm using, it is not your typical paper. It's not your typical thickness. It's a super thin, almost see-through paper. The camera does not pick it up, but well, there you can kind of see it. So it's as close as I can get, or as close as I have found to like that super thin coupon paper or newspaper that you get randomly in your mailboxes. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So let's do a little more of the comparison stuff here. So again, we're looking at pivot to pivot, how these things line up. New versus old. That way, if you've had one but don't have the other, we'll kind of zoom in a little bit. We went a little too far. Let's just manually zoom this stuff here. There we go. Back this guy up and get these lined up. So there we go. So if I understand correctly, they are a half an inch difference. It's a 1/4 inch in the handle, 1/4 inch in the blade. So overall is a half an inch. If I am not mistaken, I'll do some measurements here in just a little bit. Of course, the titanium one does weigh a little bit more. Now on the standard one, you did have a, let's see here. Standard one, you did have the brass backspacer to give you a little bit of weight in the back, but excellent knife. And the new one is honestly, I like the size. I wasn't sure on it when I first seen them. And there's been a lot of people I've heard that you kind of made some grumbles about the knife getting slightly smaller. But at least in my hands, it does fit the hand a little bit better. You do still have that really nice choke up point just as before. And I was afraid that the traditional pocket clip might create a hot spot where the wire clips are just really known for being comfortable and not having hot spots. I'm not picking up any sort of difference as far as the clip is concerned. It hits my hand perfectly right here in the void in my hand. Really no issues there. The jimping is just as good as it's always been. You do have, when you're doing your pinch grip, you do have that ability there, and the button being moved, as long as you're not on the button itself, you're usually pinching right here on the pivot. It's, at least in my hand, I do not have any risk of hitting the pivot or hitting the button. So even doing a pinch grip is not an issue. Now the new one, the titanium one is LMAX steel. So there you can see your only markings on the knife are there where it says LMAX, and then here where it says Vosteed. So they did do away with having the logo itself on the knife, as well as saying Thunderbird. So the logo is gone, as well as the name of the knife. Action out of the box. No issues there. You get used to the timing. So that's something that, as someone who, you know, just doing the overviews, you kind of have to excuse us a little bit, because every knife is slightly different when you go to close it, especially with the button locks as far as getting the timing. This one, it's similar enough to the other Thunderbird that it's just kind of second nature at this point. But you know, grabbing another knife or grabbing a bunch of different knives and getting that timing down pat. So a lot of times you'll see us with that bounce out, and we'll even talk about it a little bit. But you know, this one, as long as you time that button, it's good. Reverse flick is money, just as before. Front flipper, no issues there. Really great front flipper on the Thunderbird. I really like it. This thing is tuned perfectly for both the flippers. Then I'm terrible with thumb holes, but you know, you can use these very well. Reverse flick, index finger, middle finger, and I don't know if I can do the ring finger. Probably not. Now you can come down into the fuller if you need to, but the placement on the blade hole is really good. So there's really no issue, or really no reason, excuse me, to try to use that fuller. But like I said, it just works really well. Again, this is one of my favorite designs. Favorite design being the Nightshade, but this one has a very special place in my heart. Like I said, being the first Vosteed that I picked up. And, you know, it's definitely one that will be in my forever collection now ×2. So there's a lot of exciting things coming for Vosteed. You know, their Kickstarter just went live for the Anklo, and then they've got and I'm going to butcher this name, the Telerosaurus. Their first thumb disc knife has just released. It should be shipping within the next couple of days. So that's awesome. And then we've got some awesome stuff coming. Just UA and the team are just killing it right now with what they're doing, and I'm excited for the future. I guess one thing we will do here is we'll do the spine whack. So that was something that was an issue with the previous one, and I am confident enough in these guys that I'm not going to worry about it. So, and I just kind of messed up my mat there, but no issues there. I don't have anything to actually, like a piece of wood or anything, but you know, that's more than enough for me. You know, those were fairly heavy strikes, and right there on the tip still locks up perfectly. One thing I can say is that the button placement is in a better spot. So if you own one of the first generation Thunderbirds and you're curious about that, it's in a better spot with it being moved inward a little bit. And it is a slightly smaller button as well. So you're not having to move your thumb as far back to get to that button. So that's really nice. As far as for lefties, it's in a really good spot too for being able to get it with your index finger right after flicking the knife open. So fidget factor, as always with Vosteed, is great. Just another home run with these guys. I'm excited. I've actually got plans for this knife. It's going to get some anodized work on it. I think we're going to try to do like a blue and black checker pattern here. That won't be anytime soon, unfortunately, but we are looking at doing that. So this will be an exciting project for sure. And guys, gals, I really appreciate you all watching. I did forget to do the weights and everything, so we're injecting this in somewhere in the video. Wherever we're at, we'll get back to that. We'll get back to your regular scheduled show. So our weight difference here, the original, the OG, we are looking at 3.4 ounces, and the new guy, 4.2. So almost a full ounce difference. And that is just simply because, you know, titanium is heavier than G10. And with this design, and you're not going to be able to see it, let me grab a light. With this design, you do not need full liners. So if you will look down in here, They are very thin liners, and they have holes all in them. So there is not a whole lot of steel in here. It's mostly G10. And the new one is all titanium with the same steel liners. Now, taking a look at the length differences, like I said, it is, if I'm not mistaken, about 1/4 of an inch. And, yep. Let me just make sure here. Or excuse me, I said 3.5. Excuse me, we are looking at a 3 1/4 inch blade and a 3 1/2 inch blade. And then our overall, we are at 7 1/2 on this one. And our overall is 8 here. So exactly what I said earlier. We're 1/4 an inch in both ways. So, all right, guys, back to your scheduled programming. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here with Vosteed and, you know, give them some love. They definitely deserve it. They're doing some amazing stuff. They're listening to the customers, and they're doing things the right way, and it's great to see that. And I am proud to be a fan, an ambassador, an affiliate, whatever you want to call it. I'm just proud to be here with these guys. I hope you are too. But as always, I hope you remember to be kind, be humble, be EDC. We'll catch you on the next one.